Okay, so I usually like to start my cooking classes the same way we kind of started the mushroom class yesterday with introductions. And since we have a couple new faces, I figure we just go around and you can say your name and maybe something that you were excited to learn or see yesterday. I will start, and you guys know I'm Gracie, and I think I was really excited to learn that we could eat the coral mushrooms, and I'm excited to try those today. I've never eaten them before. I've always seen them. I was running through the forest looking for Mitch when Vasily talked about the coral mushrooms. So if one of you guys could fill me in on what he had to say about them, that would be great. Yeah, Linda, you want to tell us what you learned?
I was further down the way when he started talking about the coral mushrooms. But I guess the main thing I learned from looking at them is what they look like. So I know now what to look for, that they actually look just like coral.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
I don't eat anything unless I'm sure of it.
Totally. Did you learn or see anything else cool yesterday?
I like those little, what did he call them? He called them like Roselli?
Rushella?
Rushella, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was looking on the mushroom group on Facebook and I saw some people that had gotten some. And so I saw like more than one. So that was good.
Awesome. Thank you. Poppy and Peregrine, how about you guys?
I was really excited yesterday to just learn about identifying the chanterelles. I had never seen one in my whole life before, except for pictures. So that was
awesome.
I was very excited to find mushrooms, and I did.
Heck yeah, you did. I saw your basket. Sarah, how about you? Sarah, I can't hear you for some reason. It looks like you did unmute, but oh, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. I think I really appreciated the 4 things that are always true of chanterelles everywhere. That was very helpful. And as I was cleaning them yesterday, kind of going through that checklist with them just to make it solidify. That was really nice.
That's great. Yeah, you'll always have that now. You can always find chanterelles. Sandra, how about you?
I'd echo that about learning about the chanterelles and how to identify them, because I've seen them in the store, but I had no idea how this all works and where they grow and all that. So that was really cool. And what struck me about the oyster mushrooms was he actually said, be careful how much of them you eat when you first learn, because they'll be wiggly in the stomach. And he didn't say that about chanterelles. And I've never had that with mushrooms before. And so it sort of makes me a little about my new oyster mushrooms, because I found several too.
Oh, you mean the coral mushrooms?
But sorry, coral mushrooms. I keep calling them oyster, but yeah, the corals.
Okay, thank you for telling me that, because yes, this would be the first time I'm eating them as well. So I will just put just a tiny bit in my risotto, and I'll not eat them all today.
Right.
And see how I do with them. And then thank you. Grayson, how about you?
I enjoyed, getting the mushrooms and just figuring out how to identify them and all that kind of stuff, and just getting out in nature and all that kind of stuff.
Great. Awesome. Well, I'm super stoked that we were able to do that, and that we were able to learn together, and that I was able to find Mitch, and that everybody made it home from the forest. So I think for most of you, this is your first virtual class with me. So the way it works is we're going to be cooking everything together. When it comes to measuring recipe measurements, I'm going to be going through it verbally, and I'm also going to paste it into our chat box. So if you get confused at all, you can just look in the chat box and see the measurements there for what we're working on. And as we cook, I'm going to be checking in with you guys, and I'm going to say, how's it going? And let's say we're dicing an onion and you've finished dicing the onion, you give me a thumbs up. If your onion is halfway diced, you give me a thumbs sideways, which means I'm almost there. I could hear the next set of instructions, but I'm not quite cut up. And if your onion fell on the floor and your dog is chewing on it, you give me a thumbs down. I will slow down. I don't want this to be stressful for any of you guys. I want to calmly cook together. So don't hesitate to, like, at any point in time, you can unmute and ask me questions or tell me you need me to slow down. So before we get started, I just want to check in and see, did everybody get their onions and garlic peeled beforehand? We're all good with peeled onions and garlic? Great. Does everybody have their mushrooms nice and clean? Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to spotlight my screen for you so it's nice and big. Let's see. And then if you prefer the gallery view, if you like looking into everybody's kitchen a little more closely, you just go to the top right of your screen. There's a view button. You can click on that and click on gallery, and that'll put everybody in equal proportion. So the first thing we're going to do is what I call mise en place, which is just doing all of our chopping. We're going to chop everything so that when we're cooking, we're just focused on cooking. We're not going back and forth a bunch. So we're just going to start off by chopping. And since it's a mushroom class, I figure we'll start with our mushrooms. So we're doing two things with these mushrooms today. We are pickling some of them and we're making a risotto with some of them. So the first thing I want you to do is take out the very most beautiful mushrooms, the ones that are the most pristine, prized, gorgeous mushrooms, maybe three to four of the nicest ones. And these ones are going to be what we saute and set on top of our risotto as sort of a, you know, like it's a little risotto monument to the mushrooms. So we want to top it with the most perfect, beautiful mushrooms. And for these ones, if they're like, I think for this one I have, it's about this big. That's how big my hand is. I'm just going to cut it in half. For any bigger piece, we want sort of just like nice big pieces to display on top of the risotto. So this is kind of our ideal size here. So these are just like garnishing mushrooms. They're the prettiest ones, and we're just cutting them into nice sort of segments that still show off the form, still very much recognizable as the form. And for this, you can use any of the mushrooms, any variety that you found. So you could put maybe a shrimp rissola in there if you got one of those, a chanterelle or two, maybe one of the corals. These are going to be like a beautiful garnish mushroom. And we're just cutting them into nice big chunks. So I have about this much of them, like a little cup worth of these pretty large chunks of mushrooms. So just give me a thumbs up when you're done cutting nice big pieces of your gorgeous garnish mushroom. Nice, great. Looking good. Okay. Now I want you to take your scrappiest mushrooms, the ones that are the most shredded, the ones that look the crappiest, that maybe you stepped on it before you picked it. Maybe it was at the bottom of your bag. But sort of, yeah, scrappy, crappy mushrooms. And we are going to finely dice these. We're going to chop them up small. They're going to get sauteed into the base of our risotto. They're going to give it a lot of flavor. And we're going to want at least a cup and a half worth of finely diced mushroom. The rest of the mushroom will be pickled. So I'll kind of show you what I mean when I'm talking finely diced. They don't all have to be the exact same size, but I'm thinking something like this, where no piece is bigger than your thumbnail. I think, I don't know, for any of you who had never foraged before, there's something so thrilling about seeing the mushroom in the forest, about seeing that little like patch of color out of the corner of your eye and getting closer and realizing that, yes, indeed, you did find one. That feeling is like the closest I can get to like being a kid again. Like it really elicits a very goofy, giddy sort of joy in me. It's one of my favorite. That's why I love mushroom foraging so much. And I feel so lucky to have met Vasily. He's just such a wealth of knowledge, so much experience, and so much passion. So let me know. I'm still over here dicing, but whenever you guys are done dicing your mushrooms, you give me a thumbs up. And if you don't feel like you have sufficient mushrooms to pickle any, that's also okay. If you're like, I want them all in my risotto, that's just fine. We're still going to make the pickle brine together because in the brine, we put a lot of fennel and onion, and it is this really garlicky, oily, tangy brine that's also a really great salad dressing. So the onions and fennel that we pickle will be really good in your salad that accompanies the risotto tonight, whether or not you choose to pickle the mushrooms in it. It will still be delicious. And if you like it, you can keep the brine and go out mushroom foraging again, and then put the mushrooms in that you find next time. And for the pickle recipe, we just want to use the chanterelles. We're not going to pickle those shrimp rissoles or the coral mushrooms or other edibles that you found. So all of the other ones, like just save a handful of chanterelles for the pickles. And all your other mushrooms can either be saved as the garnish mushroom or finely chopped for the base of the risotto. Anybody else remember anything else Vasily taught you guys about the corals other than not to eat a whole ton of them?
He also told us that he personally only eats them in the spring.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, he said there's nothing wrong with them. He just feels like they're, that's when they are arriving, I guess. They're new.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
He also told us that the toxic ones have a gelatinous, where he used was gloopy base at the base of the stalk, and that's how you can tell the toxic ones apart from the non-toxic ones.
Ooh, that's a good one. So gloopy base of the stalk. Okay.
That's good.
This would be my brand new mushroom of the year that I'm adding to my repertoire, would be the coral mushroom. So I'm really hoping I digest it well. It works out for me. Okay, is everybody done dicing the mushrooms? Almost there. Okay, we'll give you guys another second. The next step is going to be the remaining pickled mushrooms should be cut into bite-sized pieces. So for chanterelle, I mean, this is fine. I can totally, this is going to cook, know that they're going to cook down. They're going to get smaller when we cook them. So something like this is totally fine. A bite-sized chunk. This pickled mushroom recipe was taught to me by one of my closest friends. And I just think it's so delicious. And this is a really good recipe to have in your back pocket for when you really come upon a windfall of chanterelles and you cannot possibly cook them all in time. This will preserve them for up to a month in your fridge. So it's a nice one to have. And it works for pretty much all edible mushrooms. But I like the chanterelle texture the best for it.
You've got 2 of you.
Gracie, we are doubling the recipe, but it'll take us a little longer to get the steps done because we have to feed 6 people.
Okay, sounds good. You guys just let me know. I'm probably going to keep giving some instruction, and if you feel lost or confused, just let me know, okay? Awesome. And everybody else, let me know when you're done. We should have, at this point, chopped all our mushrooms. So you have the pristine prize mushrooms cut into big chunks. You have your scrappy mushrooms chopped finely. And then you have your mushrooms for pickling that are cut into bite-sized pieces. Great. We're going to move on to our onion next, but no rush. I see some people are still chopping away, so I'm just going to have a glass of wine and relax. Cheers.
Hey, Gracie.
Yeah.
So we thought we needed a pound. Just we were looking off the recipe. We don't need a pound for each recipe, right?
No.
I was going to say, yeah, because we have plenty of mushrooms left. So is there one that we should save more mushrooms for than the other, as far as more on the risotto versus the pickling? Or
that's up to you. So if you want a more mushroomy risotto, you can delegate the mushrooms to the risotto. If you want more pickles for later, you can set them in the pickle pile. Okay. Yeah, you get to choose.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so you should have 2 onions. And one of the onions, we're going to cut it in half. Well, they're both going to get cut in half, really, with the root end still on. And we are going to thinly slice it in half moon shape. So I'm going from the cut end towards the root end, and I'm slicing thin like this. And this is going to be going into our pickle. Nice and thinly sliced. So just give me a thumbs up when you're done slicing that onion. Nice. Getting there, getting there. All right. Great. The other onion is going to be diced. And this will be for our risotto. And so when I dice an onion, here I might bring you guys a little closer to my cutting board so you can see this technique, which maybe most of you might already know, but I like to, if you don't know this, this can be a game changer for all your future of cooking. When I dice an onion, so I always like to leave the root end intact so it holds the whole onion together. And then I go along following the curve of the onion and I slice along like parallel lines going all the way down, but not cutting through the root of the onion. So I'll show you what that looks like. I just cut it open like this without cutting through all the way. So it's still held together by the root end of the onion. And then I'll do another cut that goes through this way, like this. Cut like that way, and I just did a cut that way. And then you can just go right down the line, cut through it, it holds itself together. You get a nice dice on your onion. I'm not saying it's the only way to dice an onion, but I think it's the fastest way. So the diced onions going into our risotto. And let me know when you're finished dicing that onion. Whew, maybe having a little bit of a cry. All right, how's the onion dicing going? All right, almost there? Almost there? Great. The next thing we're gonna do is our fennel bulb. Was everybody able to find a fennel bulb? This is my favorite vegetable. I love a fennel bulb. So we're gonna be cutting the fennel bulb in half. If your fennel has fronds on them, you can trim them off and you can either discard them or sometimes I save them in my freezer to put in my stock. But I want to give it a little haircut, high and tight. And then we're going to be cutting the fennel bulb in half this way. So I trimmed off the tops, the fronds. I cut it in half like so. And this will just get thinly sliced. I'm noticing mine has a little bit of dirt in between the layers of it. So I'm just going to give it a little rinse in the sink. I'm just peeling kind of back and I can see that's a little bit dirty. So I'm just going to give it a rinse. And then the fennel is going to get thinly sliced just the same as that thinly sliced onion, going from the stem end down towards the root end. And the thinly sliced fennel can go with the thinly sliced onion. It's going to go into our pickle. So this is what it looks like when I slice it. And if you've never had fennel before, you can just grab a piece of it and have a taste. It's kind of licoricey and sweet. I just love the flavor of fennel. And you should have about equal amounts of fennel, sliced fennel, and sliced onion. These pickled mushrooms, we're going to put them in a salad tonight, but they're really going to be best in the next couple days and the next week after they've been in the brine for a while. And my favorite thing to do with them is to eat them in a grilled cheese sandwich, or just to serve them on like a big cheese charcuterie board with some fresh goat cheese or, any kind of nice creamy soft cheese next to them. They're really great just on a piece of bread with fresh cheese or butter. But yeah, they're a really nice snack and they're great in sandwiches, salads. All right, we only have a couple more things to chop before we're done with this portion of the class. So give me a thumbs up when your fennel bulb is all sliced up. Awesome, awesome. Peregrine, how's it going over you got that fennel bulb sliced? Almost, almost. You're getting there. Great. If the rest of you guys want to start, we're just going to be picking our thyme off the stem. We're just going to take the time to pick the thyme. Glad you like that. And you can save 2 whole sprigs, 2 big sprigs, just whole. Those you can set aside. We're going to put them in our broth when we're warming up our broth for our risotto. We're going to set those aside.
Hey, Gracie.
Yeah.
So the time that we bought, they didn't have any. They were sold out at the grocery store. So we bought like the living stuff. So it doesn't really have, it's pretty like maybe young or small or.
Then you can just, what I would see if you can break through the stem of it with your fingernail easily. And if it's soft enough that you can break it with your fingernail, then you can just chop it.
Yeah, it's just tiny. It doesn't have stems, really. It's just...
Yeah, then you can just chop it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
And you said save 1 stem to put in the broth, right?
Yeah, 2 stems. two sprigs with the leaves on. You can save for your broth. And once you've picked the thyme, you can just give it a nice chop. You don't have to go crazy, but just a little bit of a chop, just break it up a little bit.
How much time exactly? I don't know if we have way too much.
I would say if you guys are doubling the recipe, you want at least 3 tablespoons of chopped thyme. At least.
We're only doubling the risotto, not the pickles.
The thyme is just for the risotto. So, and I would just, give it all you got. It's delicious.
They could put in some dried thyme if they have that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get tired of picking the thyme and you want to use some dried thyme. And the final thing after you're done picking your thyme and giving it a chop is going to be our garlic. So let me know when you're ready for garlic time. Nice. Cruising. Oh, I forgot the leek. Just kidding. Just kidding. We'll do the leek next. Is everybody done with the thyme?
Yeah. We have maybe a teaspoon done so far.
Okay. No worries. I'm just doing a couple dishes over here. catching up. You guys just let me know when you're ready to move on for the next step. Okay, for those of you that are ready, we're gonna just chop our leek up. And so we're going to be dicing the leek for the risotto. So the first thing we're gonna do is give it a little haircut. Just right about here, right where it starts to fork out. We're gonna trim it down. And these tougher green tops, I like to also save these in my freezer for stock. They're really flavorful. So I'm going to put those in my freezer, and then we'll be dicing up this part, the white part. My leek is super dirty, so I'm just going to give some of this a rinse. Then with the rest of the leek here, I'm going to be cutting it in half lengthwise. Again, leaving that root intact. So it's like this. And then I'm going to go rinse in the sink. I'm going to go take it to the sink, and I'm going to rinse in between these layers because there's a lot of dirt in here. And the roots should hold everything together. So I'm just going to give this a good wash. And then once it's nice and clean, I'm just going to cut it lengthwise again into similar size pieces as the diced onion. So I do a similar thing here where I cut the leek, leave the top intact, and then I'm just going to chop, 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 chop. should end up with a similar amount of diced onion and diced leek for the risotto. And they can go together. Poppy and Peregrine, are you guys still working on the time?
Poppy is doing the time. We have discovered a magical trick to do it faster that our wonderful Italian mother showed us by pulling it through the holes of a strainer. I am cutting the leeks, and you had a double stock, right, for a single make of the recipe, so we should use 4.
You just need 2 leeks total for the recipe, for a doubled recipe. You'll only need 2, not 4.
Okay, awesome, perfect.
Oh, or were you talking about the pieces of thyme for the broth?
No, I meant the leeks, so we only
Yeah.
need 2 even if we're doubling it?
Yeah. And when we're done with the leek, just let me know. Awesome. Excellent, excellent. We will attend to our garlic. So when you are ready and without feeling rushed, we are going to start thinly slicing some of the garlic. We want a 1/4 cup of thinly sliced garlic. So that is going to look like, and this is for the pickles. Thinly sliced, I mean something like this. So for me, I think it's going to be about 6 to 8 cloves of the garlic, thinly sliced. To get to a 1/4 cup of thinly sliced garlic. Well, that's a cute kitty you got over there. Oh, now this thinly sliced garlic is going to get confit, means we're going to cook it really, really gently in olive oil. So when you're done slicing it, you can just place it into a little pot, a small pot. And we're going to put a 1/2 cup of olive oil in that pot with the garlic, 1/2 cup. We will just set that aside for now. So give me a thumbs up when you have that thinly sliced garlic, a 1/4 cup of thinly sliced garlic in a cup, in a pot, small pot with a 1/2 cup of olive oil. Okay, I see you. I'm going to slow down. And Peregrine and Poppy, I'll just wait for your guys' thumbs up to move to the next step. Okay, so let me know when you got that thinly sliced garlic. I'm just straining my chicken stock that I made over here.
Hey, Gracie.
Yeah.
Should we turn on the heat for that oil for the garlic or just let it sit there for now?
If you are comfortable multitasking, you can turn it on. If you're somebody who gets stressed out in the kitchen, I would not turn it on yet. It's going to go on a very low heat, like your lowest heat. We would just want to really gently cook the garlic in the oil. We don't want to burn it. So it just goes on a very low heat.
Gracie, we have succeeded. I also have a question. If we're doubling this recipe, do we need 750 milliliters of this white wine?
If you're doubling the recipe, you're going to need, I believe, a full cup of white wine that goes in with your broth. And if you're doubling, and then I think we're going to use a cup of wine. Yeah, we're using a cup of wine in the pickling brine, but if that's the same, then you'll need 2 cups total for both recipes. Awesome. Okay, is everybody else ready to move on? Okay, great. Let's finish working on our garlic. So we're going to need 2 cloves of garlic that are just smashed. So just put them on the cutting board and smash them with your knife. Those are going to be going into our broth. And then the rest of the garlic is going to get minced up for the risotto. So finely chop the rest of it. So smash 2 cloves, set them aside. And every other piece of garlic just gets chopped up nice and fine for the risotto.
Can we use the black magic that is a garlic mincer if we have one?
You may. I will allow it this time. The one thing to be mindful of when you use that tool is that the resulting garlic is more of a paste and it will cook a lot more quickly than chopped garlic. So you just have to be careful to not burn the garlic, but I don't think that'll be a problem for the risotto. I think you'll be just fine. And once you've got your garlic minced, we're ready to start cooking. So let me know, give me a thumbs up when that garlic is all minced up.
I think we might have missed a step somewhere. So we have the 1/4 cup of the sliced garlic, and then we have the 2 cloves that are smashed.
Yes.
And what else are we missing?
The rest of the garlic needs to be minced.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. So we're going to be making our brine next for our pickled mushrooms. And I have put the ingredients into the chat box. So whenever you are ready and done mincing your garlic, you can go ahead and look in that chat box, and all of those ingredients are going to go into a pot. And I can say them aloud, but I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but I'm going to be just going through the motions here of getting my brine ready. And the first thing that I'm putting in my pot is a cup of white wine. So it's a cup of white wine. Dry white wine is best. Something you would want to drink. Nothing gross or super old.
We are frantically looking for our corkscrew.
Okay. A cup of white wine, and then we're going to do a cup of champagne or white wine vinegar. And a cup
Okay,
of...
so I misunderstood that ingredient. I only have white vinegar or red wine vinegar and white wine.
Okay, why don't you do the cup of white wine, and then why don't you do half regular white vinegar and half red wine vinegar?
Okay.
So that way you get some of the wine flavor in there, because sometimes white vinegar on its own can be a little too sharp.
Okay.
And then I'm doing a cup of water. And if you get overwhelmed at this point, just remember the measurements are in your chat box for this. I'm going to be adding in a tablespoon of kosher salt. And a tablespoon and a half of sugar. And the last thing the last things I'm adding into my brine are 2 tablespoons each of coriander, fennel seed, and mustard seed. So I will just recap that for you verbally, and then it's in your chat. It's a cup of water, a cup of white wine, a cup of white wine vinegar, a tablespoon of salt, a tablespoon and a half of sugar, and 2 tablespoons each of fennel seed, coriander seed, and mustard seed. Let me know when you have all those things in your pot. With a thumbs up. And once you do, we're going to put it on.
Do you want us to toast those seeds?
You don't have to.
Okay.
They're going to cook in the brine. Once you've got them all in there, we're going to just bring this up to a boil.
Gracie, I don't have any fennel seeds. Do you have any recommendations?
No fennel seed. I think that there is a lot of fresh shaved fennel in the brine, so you'll still really get that flavor through. There's nothing quite, I mean, there's anise seed, but that's a little too sweet for this dish, I think.
Okay.
You could do cumin if you want, but that's going to take it in a different direction flavor-wise.
Okay.
Or caraway. Maybe like a teaspoon of caraway seed would be good.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So once you've got all those brine ingredients on the stove, we're going to put it on like a medium-high heat. We want to bring it up to a boil. And we're also going to start heating up that garlic. If you haven't already, that oily garlic, we just want to heat it on a low heat. We just want to see gentle bubbles coming through the olive oil. We don't want any boiling. We don't want to burn the garlic. We're being very careful with the garlic. How's everybody doing? Are we all feeling okay? Okay. Okay. Give you some time with your brine. I know we're all in various states of brine making here in our kitchens, but I just want to give you a heads up that when your brine does come to a boil, you're going to add in all that thinly sliced fennel and onion, and you're going to take it off the heat. So just be ready for when it boils. You're going to put in all your thinly sliced fennel and onion, and it's going to come off of the heat. And for the garlic, we'll know it's done in the oil when the oil starts to smell, when you can smell that garlic flavor permeating your kitchen. Now, when you're ready, and if you don't feel too overwhelmed right now, we do want to start sauteing the mushrooms that we're going to pickle. So the mushrooms that you cut up to pickle, we're just going to saute them in a frying pan on a high heat with a little bit of olive oil and salt. We just want to cook them until they're done. Nothing fancy here. We just want to get them to a cooked texture. So that's a few things happening at once here. So if that is overwhelming for you, you can wait until the brine is complete before you cook the mushrooms. But I'm just warming up a pan now on my stove to cook my mushrooms for pickling. And what I'm going to do is let my dry pan get hot first. And then I'll put like a tablespoon of olive oil into the pan. And then I'll add the mushrooms and sprinkle them with a little bit of salt. You don't have to measure it. You can just do a pinch of salt sprinkled on the mushrooms and kind of let them sear for a little bit and then stir them until they're nice and tender. Probably will take about 5 minutes to cook them.
And just a little bit of oil?
Yeah, not too much oil because they're going to go in an oily brine.
Got it.
Yeah.
We are still on the brine and have missed pretty much everything since putting the wine into the brine because it's been a little crazy. We're currently driving an actual screw into the cork trying to get it out. So,
oh no, you're having wine problems. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay, my garlic started to kind of sizzle a little bit much. So I'm going to take that off the heat. I can smell the garlic flavor. And my brine is coming close to a boil. So what I've got going on right now is I have finished cooking my garlic in the oil. It's really fragrant. So I took that off of the stove. And then my brine is coming up to a boil. Yay, you got your wine open. Yay. My brine is coming up to a boil and it's just about there. I can see it starting to bubble and steam. As soon as it boils, I'm going to add in all my thinly sliced fennel and onions. And I'm going to take it off the heat. And then in a big saute pan, I'm just sauteing my mushrooms for pickling. And I've got them with a little bit of oil and a little bit of salt, just sauteing away. Okay, it's time for me to put my onions and fennel into my brine. Turn the heat off on it.
What is the texture that we're going for with the chanterelles in the saute pan?
You want them to be cooked through. So they should be soft and still kind of bouncy to the touch.
Okay.
I'd say no less than 5 minutes in the pan.
Okay.
Okay, we may be thoroughly lost. But we have our brine finally on and coming to a boil eventually, and then we have our thinly sliced garlic starting to smell a bit of garlic.
Great. I don't think you're lost at all. I think that you're right on track. All you got to do is start sauteing those mushrooms that you want to pickle.
You said dry pan?
No, I heated the pan up dry at first until it was nice and hot. And then I added in a little bit of olive oil and then the mushrooms. I added about a tablespoon of olive oil and then the mushrooms, and I sprinkled them with a little bit of salt. It should start to smell pretty dang good in your kitchen right about now.
Just to double check, to settle a dispute, these are the pickling mushrooms we're sauteing right now, correct?
Correct.
Gracie,
Yeah.
is the garlic oil stuff supposed to be like full on boiling?
No, it should be on a very, very low heat.
Okay.
No boiling oil, just really gentle. Until it's fragrant. And then once you can smell it, you can take it off the heat. Once it's smelling like garlic, just take it off the heat.
Okay, and then how much mushed garlic are we supposed to have? This is how much we have.
That's perfect.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to walk you guys through the kind of finishing steps of the pickles now. We're coming to the end of the pickling for some of you. The garlic oil with all the slivered garlic in it is going to go into your main brine. And as soon as the mushrooms are cooked through, they can also go into the brine. And it's done. You're welcome to transfer it into jars and put them in the fridge or into a bowl and put it in the fridge for now so it cools a little quicker. It'll be easier to move to jars once it's cold. But that's the finishing step for the pickled mushrooms. Once they're cooked, add them into the brine with your confit garlic oil. And if you want to taste that brine after you've added your garlic oil into it, it's pretty dang good, I think. All right, my mushrooms are done cooking. So I'm just adding them into my brine. And then I'm going to transfer that to the fridge. Like I said, these will be good tonight. They're going to be amazing tomorrow. And they'll last for about a month, sometimes even longer in your fridge. You'll know they're not good anymore when they start to kind of just get a little slimy. They shouldn't be slimy at all.
Gracie?
Yeah.
How do we know when the mushrooms are done sauteing?
So I'll show you kind of what I am looking at when I am sauteing my mushrooms. Let's see if I can get a good one here. So it's got a nice sear on it. I got a nice crispy sear. And when I squeeze it, it kind of gives way to my finger. It's not, I can feel that it's not tough or starchy anymore. It bends really easily, floppy, and it gives way to my finger. It's still a little bit bouncy, like it's going to bounce back, but it's not hard at all anymore. So now I'm going to transfer that mushroom pickle into my fridge. Carefully, because it's warm. So give me a thumbs up when your pickle is done. I see ya. I know you're not there yet. It's okay. You're doing great.
We are no longer struggling to keep up. We have everything going smoothly. It's just in a little bit earlier of a stage.
Yeah, no worries. For those of you that do finish your pickle, you get it in the fridge. I'm just doing a couple dishes now. Just washing all my brine dishes, my confit garlic pot, my brine pot, some of my measurements. Tidying up a little bit.
Now, once our brine is done boiling, we put in the fennel and the chopped, or not the chopped, but the sliced onion, correct?
You got it. Yeah, as soon as that brine comes to a boil, you add in the thinly sliced onion and fennel and take it off of the heat.
And that was the whole sliced onion and the whole bowl of fennel, right?
Yes. You got it. It'll totally be submerged in the brine. It'll all be like, it's almost like equal amounts of brine and sliced vegetable. Who is finished with the pickle? Okay, right. Okay. Linda, how about you? How's your pickle?
My pickle is not quite there yet, but it's
okay.
Almost. I had to do my mushrooms and 2 steps.
Okay, no worries.
I believe, well, all the ingredients are in the same bowl, so I would say our pickle is done-ish.
You got the cooked mushrooms in there? Awesome. Yeah, and the confit garlic? You guys caught right up.
It's that Italian blood.
Love it. Love to see it.
And then do we put that in the jar and then put it in the fridge, or just put it in the fridge in a bowl?
I put it in the fridge in a bowl so it would cool a little more quickly, and you can put it in the jar once it's cooled down. All right, so I think we're about ready to start doing our risotto. Once you get tidied up a little bit, we'll start our risotto. So if everybody wants to take a couple minutes to just give their kitchen a once over, you know, create a little peace of mind, have a sip of wine, and we'll switch into risotto mode. Or a sip of apple juice or whatever. Whatever you enjoy.
I've got my pickle.
Yes, nicely done. It looks beautiful. All right.
Smells wonderful.
This, I will tell you, is one of my favorite things, this pickle. I just adore it. So once I see you all at your screens, I will go ahead and start instructing on our risotto. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is start warming up our broth. You're going to want a quart of broth or 4 cups of broth in a pot. So give me a thumbs up when you get that quart of broth into your pot. Great. And we're also going to add in a 1/2 cup of white wine. So we got a quart of broth, a 1/2 cup of white wine. You've got a couple cloves of smashed garlic that are going to go in there that you set aside, along with a couple sprigs of thyme. And this concoction is going to go on your stove on a medium heat. We don't want to evaporate the liquid. We just want to get it nice and warm. So I'll go over that one more time. It was 4 cups of broth, a 1/2 cup of wine, 2 cloves of smashed garlic, a couple sprigs of thyme. And that's going on the stove on a medium-high heat. And just shoot me a thumbs up when you got it. Yeah, yeah. Great.
How much time did you say?
2 sprigs. Okay. Once that's warming up, you're going to want a nice big pan for your risotto. So choose your pan wisely. And we're going to start heating it up on a medium-high heat. The first thing that we're going to do is saute our mushrooms that are going on top. So those beautiful prize mushrooms that you set aside, those will be first. And we want to cook them on a high heat with a little bit of butter and olive oil. So you can put about a tablespoon each of butter and olive oil into your pan. And you can do it while the pan is warming up if you want. And the reason we're using butter and olive oil is because when you cook at a high heat, butter tends to burn, and olive oil can get a really off sort of bitter flavor when you cook it at a high heat. But when you combine them together, they somehow create this super fat, and you get the flavor of the butter and the flavor of the olive oil together, and they don't burn. So I am just warming up this olive oil and butter in my pan. And once the butter has all melted and it's bubbling away, you can place your prize mushrooms in the pan and don't stir them right away. Let them sear, let them get a nice golden brown color on them. So you might just leave them, spread them out in the pan, don't crowd them, and leave them in the pan for a couple minutes on one side.
Gracie, do we want to be doing this in the pan that's going to eventually contain the whole risotto?
Yes. You're just telling the pan what it's in for. You're giving it a preview of what's to come. So I usually start my mushrooms cut side down on the pan. Really sizzling away here. I want to get good color on them.
And we're starting with just our trophy mushrooms, nothing else?
Yeah, just the terrific, beautiful, big hunkin' chunkin' mushrooms. It's like you're creating a risotto bed for your beautiful mushrooms to lie on.
Sorry, Gracie, I was looking at the recipe and listening to you and I got lost about the amount. So I stuck a tablespoon of butter in there and then I put a whole quarter cup of olive oil in.
No, just a tablespoon of olive oil.
Just the tablespoon.
We're gonna add more fat later when we start sauteing everything. Yeah. And you can sprinkle some salt on these mushrooms as well. Wow, they smell so good. They smell like the forest. So we'll probably sear them for about 2 or 3 minutes on each side until they're nice and cooked through. Like I said, you want to be able to see them kind of flop when they're cooked through. They shouldn't be too firm that they don't bend at all. And you should be able to press down on it and kind of, it will yield to your spatula or spoon. It won't feel hard or tough. I'm really excited about these coral mushrooms. They're so pretty. So when your mushrooms are done cooking, you're going to set them aside. You're going to add some more oil and butter into the pan. And then we're going to be adding in our chopped onions and leeks and those finely chopped mushrooms that we set aside. So that's going to be our next step. I think my mushrooms are just about done here. So I am going to pull these out and set them aside. My pretty prized seared mushrooms. And then I'm going to add another 2 tablespoons each of olive oil and butter. So it's quite a bit of fat. And if you feel like a little hesitant to go that hard, you can go a little lighter on the fat. You don't have to follow me to Butterland, but you can if you want to. And I'm going to add in all my diced onions, diced leek, finely chopped mushrooms. I am not adding in my garlic yet. I am not adding in my garlic or my thyme yet. And then my pan is at a pretty high heat right now because I kind of want to caramelize and cook down the leeks and onions and mushrooms. How's everybody feeling so far? Okay, what's up, guys? You want to talk to me? Poppy, you're waving your hands around. Is everything okay?
Yeah, we're getting here to the tail end of sauteing our mushrooms. I'd say, we're almost there.
Okay, great.
We missed everything you said to do after we're done sauteing our mushrooms, though.
No worries. I can repeat it. Once you're done sauteing the mushrooms, set them aside. Make sure they're salted. And you're going to add some more oil and butter into your pan. About 2 to 3 tablespoons of each. And then you're going to add in all your diced onion and diced leek and finely chopped mushrooms. And we're going to be cooking those down, caramelizing them. And I am going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on those chopped onions and leeks and mushrooms as well.
My mushrooms are basically just taking longer because they were thicker. I didn't make those beautiful chunks thin, and I've now cut some of them, but they're kind of big, so they're taking a long time.
No worries. I love the smell of the leeks cooking down with the mushrooms. If your pan starts to look dry at all, don't hesitate to add more butter or olive oil. It should be well coated and nothing should be sticking to your pan. And make sure you keep an eye on your broth. We don't want that broth to boil. We just want it to be warm, kind of simmering away. Grayson, how's your vegetable? How are your vegetables cooking so far? Where are you at?
I'm just kind of cooking them down right now. They're getting a little bit translucent.
Perfect. So what we're looking for with these is we want to start to see, we definitely want them to turn translucent. And then we even want to see them get a little bit caramelized before we move on to our next step. And I know not everybody's here, and don't worry if you're not here yet. We'll all get here, but I want everyone to know what to look for. We're looking for the leeks to start to look like a little bit crispy caramelized on the edges. And we are also looking to see the amount of vegetables that we added into our pan should be reduced in volume by about half. We want to see it shrink down by about half the size when we're cooking it. And once we get to that point where they're starting to cook down and they're starting to caramelize, we're going to add in the garlic and the thyme. Peregrine and Poppy, have you guys started sauteing your vegetables yet?
Almost. We have 2 pots and we're waiting for them to heat up.
Okay. Sandra, how about you?
It's fabulous.
Oh, good.
It's all sauteing away. Everything smells great.
Good. Okay. I'm at the point now where I'm ready to add in my garlic and my thyme. My leeks and onions are translucent and very soft. And they're even starting to caramelize a little bit. They're starting to get a little bit crispy around the edges, a little golden. So my pan was getting a little dry, I noticed, and a little bit of the food was starting to stick to the bottom of the pan. So I added in just a touch more butter. And now I'm going to go ahead and add in my garlic and my thyme. I'm going to save about a tablespoon of the thyme. I'm going to set aside 1 tablespoon of the chopped up thyme. This is when the smell really goes through the roof right here.
How much time do we want to save?
Just a tablespoon.
Thank you.
The smell now for me is like heavenly. And as soon as you can smell the garlic and the thyme, you're going to add in your rice, 1 cup of arborio rice. And we're going to be sauteing the rice for a few minutes with all the vegetables. And I realize that not everyone is at this spot yet, and that's totally okay. I can reiterate any of these steps that you need. So I'm just going to walk you guys through one more time what I've done so far. I added my chopped leeks and onions into the pan with the finely chopped mushrooms, and I sauteed them down till they were about half the volume that I started with originally. They became translucent and soft and started to caramelize a little bit. And I did add in a little bit of salt as well. As soon as I saw the leeks and onions starting to caramelize, I added in my garlic and my thyme, but I set aside 1 tablespoon of the thyme for later. All the garlic is in, and most of the thyme is in, and I'm sauteing that until it's nice and fragrant. Once I can smell the garlic and the thyme, I'm adding in my rice, 1 cup of arborio rice or short grain white rice. And I'm sauteing the rice with the vegetables for about 3 to 5 minutes. Now, yeah.
Really quick, that's saute the mushrooms and the vegetables together?
Yep. All the chopped up mushrooms and leeks and onions.
Okay. We already added the garlic and the thyme, so.
Okay.
And we didn't leave out a tablespoon, so it's
okay. It'll still be delicious.
Yep.
But be careful because your garlic might burn a little bit. So just keep a close eye on it. And if it starts to burn, you're going to want to add your rice in. So I've been sauteing the rice for a couple minutes. And now I'm going to start adding in my broth, 1 cup at a time. I'm going to add in some of my broth. And I'm going to turn my pan down to a medium heat. Because you don't want the broth to all evaporate as soon as it hits the pan. You want it to have a time to get absorbed into the rice. So I'm turning my pan down to medium. I'm adding in a cup of broth. And when I add the broth, I like to use my spatula to make sure I get any crispy bits that have started to stick to my pan.
So I've never cooked arborio rice before.
Mm-hmm.
Am I, besides it, sticking and whatever, what am I looking for with it before I add the broth?
We just wanted to saute it for a couple minutes, really. It's just, you're not going to necessarily see any, you might start to see it get a little lightly golden on part of the rice grain. But what it does, the sauteing, is it helps sort of the rice keep its shape when you add the moisture so it doesn't get mushy. And once you get to this point where you're starting to add the broth in, the name of the game, it's the risotto game. And the name of the game is just you add in liquid, you stir it until it sort of absorbs into the rice. And then you continue to do this until your rice is cooked. And make sure Make sure that you're turning your pan down to a medium heat. It shouldn't be blasting when you're adding your liquid in. How's everyone feeling? Is anybody feeling like they need some extra guidance or, okay, you're doing great, Sandra. I love to see it. Is anybody feeling overwhelmed or stressed out?
We are overwhelmed.
Okay, take a deep breath. It's just risotto. You got it. You don't want to put stressful energy into the food. So try and remember what it was like to wander around in that forest and put some of that good forest energy into your risotto. You're not in a rush. It takes as long as it takes. Don't try and, put too much pressure on yourself. You guys are trying to make twice the amount of food that everyone's making. Have a sip of water. Okay. Now I've got my risotto kind of simmering away here. I have to go for 1 second just to empty my pot of chicken scraps into my compost. I'll be right back. But everyone should just be slowly adding broth into your risotto, letting it absorb and stirring it. And once the pan starts to look a little dry, you just add a little more broth. I usually do about a cup at a time. And you're welcome to, at any point in this, take a little piece of rice out and just taste it and see how cooked it is. At this point, it won't be very cooked. It'll be tough and grainy and hard. But in the next 15 minutes or so, it's probably going to be fully cooked through. So I will be right back. Nobody panic. I would 10 out of 10 recommend walking out of your house and back into your house just so you can smell it. Peregrine and Poppy, how are your vegetables cooking down? What point are you at yet?
They're cooking down well. Some broth got added sort of accidentally and prematurely, so it's being ladled out. We're about to add.
Okay, good. Sounds good. I do recommend everybody just taste a grain of rice and see how it's cooking. Mine's still pretty tough, but it's a good chance to also get a feel for how salty your risotto is. And you're welcome to add a little bit of salt to it, to your taste. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or things that they want to share at this point? How's everybody feeling?
Mine seems to be going through the liquid really quick. So when that happens, do you just add water or?
Yeah, you can add water, but I would add the water into your pot with the stock, and you could add a little more wine, or if you have any more broth, you can add it. But you do want to be adding warm liquid into the risotto. And if you're real concerned about it, you can always put, if you have a lid for your pan, you can put a lid on it and it'll steam. It'll keep a little bit more of the moisture in. Now, we are going to do something that is going to take this risotto over the top, which is whipping some creme fraiche with that little bit of time we have left and some grated Parmesan. So when you feel like you've got a handle on your risotto, that it's not going to like run away from you, you can go ahead and finely grate a half cup of Parmesan cheese. My rice is starting to get almost cooked. Don't forget to taste your risotto. Make sure you give it a little bit of salt. And Sandra asked a great question. If you're running out of liquid and your rice still needs more liquid, go ahead and add a little water into your pot that has the broth in it. You can add more wine too if you like the wine flavor. And if you got multiple people in your kitchen or you're feeling good about the multitasking, we're going to go ahead and whip up that creme fraiche. So you should have a cup of creme fraiche. We're going to put it into a bowl and whisk it up until it's nice and fluffy. And then we're going to add in all this grated Parmesan and the rest of the thyme that you set aside, and a bunch of fresh cracked black pepper, as much as you like. You can go crazy on the black pepper. And I always like to whisk in a bigger bowl than you think you need, because you can get more air into it. I'm adding my Parmesan and thyme and black pepper into my whipped creme fraiche. I know, we're multitasking. And it's looking like my rice is just about done. So I am going to let it cook off the rest of the moisture in it. How's everybody else's rice doing?
The rice is softening.
Nice. Do you feel like it's starting to be at a texture you might want to eat it at, or is it still pretty far away from that?
It's getting very close.
Okay, great. So at this point, you don't want to add much more liquid in. I mean, you don't want the rice sticking to your pan. but you want it to just absorb all the liquid that's in it. And then our final step for the risotto, once the rice is cooked and you've cooked out all there shouldn't be any extra liquid puddling in the pan. Once you've cooked out all the liquid that's in there, we're gonna fold in that creme fraiche and turn the heat off. And make sure you taste it for salt. You want it to be plenty salty. Peregrine and Poppy, how's it going over there?
It's going. It's going. The rice is not cooked yet, but we're working up the creme fraiche. And
awesome.
How much Parmesan did you say?
A half a cup.
Okay.
Now we're almost at the end of class. Our risotto is almost done. The only thing we have left to do is finish our salad. So once you've whisked that creme or whipped or folded the creme fraiche into your risotto, you can top it with those beautiful mushrooms you sauteed beforehand. And you can top it with a little bit of a dusting of Parmesan. And then for our salad, it's really simple. We're just tossing arugula with the, hey guys, I'm still teaching. One sec. We're just gonna toss the arugula with a little bit of our pickled mushroom and fennel and onion. And if you want, you can shave a little Parmesan in there, but the brine from the pickled mushrooms is gonna make our dressing. So you can add as little or as much of that brine to the salad. But I find just like grabbing the mushrooms with my hands and tossing it with the arugula, you get enough brine in there as is. And this is going to make a nice big meal, especially if you're at Poppy and Peregrine's house. So I want to make sure that everybody feels confident about the final steps here. Once your rice is cooked through and you've cooked the liquid out of the risotto, there's no pooling of liquid. We're going to add in that whipped creme fraiche, fold it in gently, taste and adjust the seasoning. Top it with those sauteed mushrooms we made earlier. That's your risotto. It's done. The salad, you're just going to grab however much arugula you want to eat tonight and toss it with some of those pickled mushrooms with and you can grab some of the fennel and onion out of there too and toss it. You can sprinkle a little extra salt in, grate a little bit of Parmesan, and that's your salad. So I'll make my salad right now so you guys can see. Well, actually, I gotta fold this in real quick. It's a beautiful thing. And then I'm going to taste my risotto, see how the seasoning is. The risotto, when you fold the whipped creme fraiche in, it just kind of lifts it up. Sometimes risotto can be really kind of smushy and soggy and stodgy. But when you fold in this whipped creme fraiche, it kind of like gives it a little air. And a little extra creaminess. Never hurt anybody. And I'm going to top it with my beautiful sauteed mushrooms. And you can add a little Parmesan on top if you want, if you feel so inclined. Wow. Yum. Hope everybody is very pleased with how theirs turns out. I'm feeling good about mine. I have a little extra radicchio in my fridge, so I'm just adding that into my salad as a bonus. Because I love it. Then I'm just grabbing these pickled mushrooms. They're still kind of warm, but hopefully they've cooled down a little bit. I'm adding in the fennel, a couple of the mushrooms. And I'm just going to toss that in with my arugula and give it a taste. And then I'm going to top it with just a little bit of Parmesan. And some black pepper, I think. And that's going to be dinner. So before we end class, I want to make sure that everybody is feeling good about the finishing touches on everything. If you have any questions, concerns, now is your time.
No, this was absolutely great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, I'm so glad. And if you guys feel inspired to take a picture and send it to me, I always love to see how your finished food turns out, especially a picture with you in it with your finished food. Those are my most joyful things that I receive. This is my little finished salad, Parmesan and pickled mushrooms there. And then this is my finished risotto. Let's see if I can carry it over to the screen. Ta-da! Peregrine and Poppy, I want to make sure you guys feel good about like the final phases of everything. And if anybody wants to show off any food, now is the time.
We'll show you ours.
Look at those 2 hands going. You guys rock. Poppy, do you feel good about like the final phases of the cooking? Do you feel like you understand what you need to do?
I think so.
Okay, you want to tell me?
After this, we're gonna put once all the liquid is cooked off and all that, then we're gonna put the other mushrooms on top. And then for the salad, I have the salad, it's kind of half made. I'm grating Parmesan for it, and then we're gonna put the pickled ones on top of that. Is that right?
Yes, one step you forgot, which is as soon as your rice is cooked through and the liquid's cooked off of it, you fold in that creme fraiche that you whipped.
Right.
Yes. Anybody else have any questions or want to show anything off? Okay, you guys, I'm going to sign out. I hope that you all enjoy your meal immensely. It was such a pleasure being in the forest with you all and cooking with you all. Thank you so much for supporting the cooking school. It really is the best. And yeah, I hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
And I'll send you the recording.